that if we go through this, I'll cover that. Okay. So just a reminder about where we are today, right? We have talked about, so a month ago, we met and talked really broadly about everything. You've had the last couple weeks to do some homework assignments, to watch some videos, take some quizzes, and submit a pre-work inspection. In Hawaii, I think the videos are particularly good. We got great local expert knowledge in those videos. Anybody interested in Hawaii, go check out those videos. I don't know nearly as much about Hawaii as anyone who talked there. So as a reminder, you can get the best management practices by going to treecareforbirds.com and clicking on these links here. And that the best management practices are mostly very, very broad. And then on page 59, we get into the specifics of Hawaii. And this is important, super important in Hawaii, because Hawaii is so different than everywhere else. And in this first couple paragraphs here, what it really does is introduce two other documents that are super important in Hawaii. The tree care guidelines and best practices for Manaoko breeding site for the white tern, and the Endangered Species Recovery Committee Hawaiian hoary bat guidance document for the Hawaiian hoary bat. These are endangered and threatened species here in Hawaii. I'm not in Hawaii, in Hawaii. And what we sort of think are the most important things to understand when working responsibly in Hawaii. So nothing has changed since last year. I'm just going to go through a little bit of guidance of these documents. Highly recommend going and checking out the videos. The first thing to know is dealing with the Manaoko, are you in the white tern breeding range or not? This is mostly sort of downtown, urban Honolulu sort of areas where most of the breeding takes place. And if you are working in those areas, I highly recommend reaching out to the Aloha Arborist Association and getting some training from them. They do in-person trainings, which I would really like to do and seem to be amazing in terms of specific knowledge about the white tern in Honolulu. Some signs that you're working in an area that has an active white tern nest are, there is tape on the tree, right? They go out and monitor these sites. And so if there's tape on the tree, likely there's an active nest in that tree. There's whitewash on the ground that's sort of pure white and not a variety of different colors. That you have an adult tern sitting sort of in this awkward position on a branch as if there is an egg underneath it, because there probably is an egg underneath it if the white tern looks like this. Or maybe you even see the egg sitting on the branch while the adults are out gathering food or something like that. Then once the egg hatches, it goes through a variety of stages and what it looks like, but generally it's just going to be standing on the branch where the egg hatched from. And so all of these times, basically from when the egg is laid until the young can really fly away and go somewhere else, we want to be really careful working around these birds and be aware of what's going on. This can basically happen any time of year in Honolulu, but there are certainly some seasons that seem to have more of it, but it's really quite consistent all year round. One thing that's amazing about the white tern is how tolerant it is of human impact. And so this was a situation where a tree was likely going to fail pretty soon. And the tree risk assessment sort of established it as really high risk. And rather than scooping the nest out and taking it somewhere else, they determined that they could remove almost all of the tree and leave this one branch, and the young fledged, right? It survived this and didn't jump off the branch and flew away eventually when it got old enough, and then they could remove the rest of the tree. This is not true for like all other bird species. This is really specific to the white tern in how tolerant they are of human impacts. And then there's also information about what to do if you find an injured or abandoned bird or something, white tern, something like that. And this first step is always to call the Kohui Manaoko. And so that's highlighted in yellow there. Okay, so again, there's an 1.5-hour video in the handout. You can check out the link for that. In learning more about the details of that, that's just a really broad overview. And then maybe an even broader overview about the Hawaiian hoary bat. is that in this document, it basically, I don't like reading documents during presentations very much, but I'm going to because it's got such a good, dense information here. Female Hawaiian hoary bats give birth to 2 pups, or occasionally 1, in mid-June, and the pups are typically dependent on their mother and are unable to fly until late August, early September. Tree trimming has the potential to impact juvenile bats because they may be unable to fly away from a tree when it is cut or disturbed. For this reason, guidance from, I'm going to try to do this right, Department of Forestry and Wildlife and the US Fish and Wildlife Service is that trimming of woody plants more than 15 feet tall should not occur between June 1st and September 15th without prior consultation with agency biologists. Okay, so what I believe this says is if you are going to prune or remove any tree anywhere on the Hawaiian Islands between June 1st and September 15th, you shouldn't because of this endangered bat without calling the Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources. And so that's obviously really difficult to navigate. And we have people working on that and trying to learn more about it, trying to develop a protocol that is going to help us be able to navigate these laws responsibly. But at this point, it's not illegal to do this pruning during these months. It's illegal to injure a bat, and it's very, very difficult to know whether there is a bat in the tree or not. And so that's sort of the situation that we find ourselves in. We don't really have any good guidance at this time beyond that, except that contact your wildlife agencies and try to figure out with them what is the best option to move forward with and do your best to navigate it. So in fitting our best management practice system into Hawaii, Hawaii is obviously the most different from all the other states and areas that we're trying to build this for. We are saying during the pupping season, contact a wildlife biologist or maybe your state agency, better than a wildlife biologist. And then during the non-pupping season, if you want to work outside of the white tern breeding area, go for it. If you want to work inside of the white tern breeding area, contact the Aloha Arborist Association and get that Manuoku training. And then if you're working out in the native forest, that might be another time to start interacting and engaging with wildlife biologists. So let me go a little bit further here. So basically, we're thinking that there's really not a lot of options during this pupping season, and hopefully soon we'll have some better recommendations for you. The other issue to be aware of in Hawaii is that most of the birds in the urban areas, right, not out in the native forests, are non-native. But some of these non-native birds, like the northern mockingbird and house finches, are native to other parts of the United States, right? Both of these birds are native to California. And so we have non-native birds that are non-native to Hawaii, but are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act because they are native to the United States. And this creates somewhat of a tricky legal system to navigate and something to be aware of. So for any questions about bats and these native, non-native bird situation, I recommend watching Alana's video that is posted in the handout about the bats and the non-native birds. Much more information, much more detail here. What we're really trying to do right now is just emphasize a couple of key points that we want to make sure you all are aware of and can go and do your own research about. Contact me anytime you have any questions about any of this. I can connect you with more experts in the Hawaii area. We can talk more about it, try to problem solve together.